Guys, welcome to our Accelerate session. One of my favorite parts about Gym Hub is every month we get in front of a successful gym manager or gym owner to pick their brains on what's kind of working well in the fitness industry. This month, I'm excited to introduce you to Aaron Seeley. Welcome, Aaron.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for having me.
We've known each other for a few years through the Virgin Active brand. I was curious for those that sort of haven't met as a club manager at Virgin Active.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I started in the fitness industry way back when, about 2012, working for Virgin Active in the UK. I started off as a personal trainer, um, very new to the industry, so didn't really know too much about sort of classes or operations or anything like that. I loved fitness, I loved sport. I've always been into sport, so PT was my first sort of real crack at trying to make a career out of something. Um, and I saw an opportunity at Virgin Active it was our Oxford Street Club back in the UK. And I thought, oh, working in central London, this sounds something amazing. And I jumped at the opportunity and was successful in that role. Um,
Wow.
so
And was Virgin Active the first brand that you worked for in fitness?
So I did a small stint of time at Fitness First. It was a 3 months, but it wasn't so much work. It was kind of part of my work experience hours as part of my certs, sort of back home, similar to how when the guys from TAFE and whatnot do their sort of floor hours and whatnot. So I spent about 3 months there because I was doing it part time whilst working in a part time retail job and sort of getting to understand the ins and outs of the fitness first model, and the sort of the high staff turnover rate at the particular gym I was doing my course at, sort of didn't really align with where I wanted to go. Um, Especially when I could see there were so many new trainers starting and leaving. It was like, oh, maybe this isn't for me. And one of my friends who also still works for Virgin Active as a PT, his name's Tyrone. He messaged me and he's like, Virgin Active are hiring. They're great. Come check us out. I was like, sure, why not? Um, and yeah, it was just such a friendly, welcoming environment. Even the interview process didn't feel like an interview process. Um, it just felt structured. There felt like there was going to be support in place, and it just. I remember leaving the interview thinking, if I don't get it this time, I will 100% apply again because this is something that I want to be a part of. And you know, was it 12, 13 years later, still here. So
Wow. It feels like such a contrast to, other fitness brands or other sort of small businesses when they're advertising. In your example, you've had a personal recommendation from a friend, and you obviously saw that as an opportunity. I think sometimes when we're interviewing people, it feels like or they think they're sort of doing us a favor by sort of coming along, but you obviously had some feeling of like goodwill associated with the brand, and the fact that you'd already
absolutely.
sort of decided if you didn't if you didn't get it, you would still keep interviewing. That's a really good sign for the brand. Do you remember in that interview process why it didn't sort of feel like an interview? What was there any sort of anything you remember that sort of put your mind at ease or just helped you to feel like could be the right fit for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I distinctly remember it. It was a group interview, so they were interviewing for PTs, and at the time we had two roles, which was the exercise coach and the PT. So the exercise coach would be someone that's just started, new off their certs, and they would start on some floor hours, and they would do member inductions, some small gym floor classes, bit of cleaning and maintenance, with a sort of a 3 to 6 months sort of transitional period to then become a fully fledged PT. And then they had the fully fledged PT for people that were a little bit more experienced, that kind of knew what they wanted to do, how they could hit the ground running and automatically sort of start drumming up business with a bit of a business plan. I went for the PT role. So we all went into the studio. Um, they greeted us by the door. They gave us a name badge, introduced who they were, what clubs they were from. Um, there was probably about 12 of us in the interview. There was, I think, six hiring managers. So it was for six different sites. And
Well,
yeah, they all introduced themselves by name, and some of them brought a senior trainer with them as well that was going to sort of speak about their time, their tenure, their experience with Virgin Active, and
hmm
um, kind of just give us the the sense check of what it's going to be like to be an employee.
yeah,
The interview then started with like an icebreaker game, which automatically just helps like shake off all your nerves, and then we broke off into sort of group activities. Um, and then after the group activities, we sort of had a sit down with the individual fitness managers to sort of guide, sort of sense if we were going to be successful for a formal second stage interview, which would be conducted either the following week or later that week. And if you it pretty much, let's just say you applied for the Oxford Street Club, but there was two other clubs that were interested in you, they'd both all want to interview you as well. So you had a bit of a choice on where you wanted to go if you were successful.
yeah. I love this because I remember doing interviews for my own business many like my first gym years ago, and you I would sort of get to the end of the interview and I wasn't really sure if I'd explained, the opportunity as well as I could have. And I felt like some of the talent, which was really good, might have gone and got a job somewhere else. So I remember having like a HR person come in. I paid like a consultant to
Yeah,
go through my interview process, and she was saying like make it less about you and sort of get in and find out about them early, get them involved. The thing I love about your one, which I think is definitely something that would even help in my own business, is that sort of belief that how you do games is how you play life, like putting people into
yeah,
a game rather than saying, are you good with people? You just get them into an activity or you get them to introduce themselves and they'll either display communication skills and the ability to sort
absolutely.
of work as a team or they won't. But I think that's a much better way. Like it just sounds like such a, like the fact that you can remember that from 13 years ago, it obviously had a good impression on you, and this sounds so very different to what I've seen in terms of like the interview process.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely changed over the years, and I suppose in Sydney, particularly in Australia, not having as many clubs makes it a little bit harder for those sort of group interviews. But
Mm,
something I've tried to adopt is if we are, excuse me, trying to recruit for maybe two or three PTs, would be to try and get two or three of them in at the same time, and we sort of try and package it up as so we get their names and we let reception know the candidates that are coming. As we come through, we try and take like a coffee order or a shake order before they come in, so we
so
can get
good.
like a coffee or a shake or a drink or something for them. Um, I'll then myself or Bianca, who's our product manager, would then come and meet them at reception, just to let them know, here, come have a seat, relax, have a sit down. Um, and then, if possible, we'll get like a sales consultant to give them a tour of the facility, just so that they can see what we're about, what we've got. And then
Mhm.
we can sort of start the formal proceedings so it doesn't feel so
Yeah,
cold. They've had a feel of the environment, they know what the club looks like, they can see the member demographic, and everyone loves a free coffee as well.
yeah,
So it's just I feel like a nice way to sort of warm the candidate up. I definitely noticed since coming back from COVID, recruitment's changed where, the unemployment rate is very different to what it was 5 or 6 years ago. And
yes,
rather than us interviewing candidates are very savvy and they're interviewing the business, the industry.
hmm
They're like, is this going to fit for me? Not the other way around. So we want to make sure that they understand what we do for our staff, our culture, the big picture, rather than just this is just a job. This is what we're going to build out for you.
yeah. I love that example where you said you actually bring like a trainer along to explain their experience and maybe
Yeah,
articulate what a week looks like or something. I think that's a really, really good idea because I imagine like a sporting team where you just went and sat down and had an interview with the coach. It'd be pretty dry. I imagine it'd be quite intense, but to meet some of your potential teammates to go, these guys are similar age. I could relate to their story. I think that's a really good idea. So
yeah.
good. Welcome, Ria, Nathan. So we've got Nathan and Michelle from Golds, Ria and Harriet there from Stretch Lab. Guys, if you've just joined us, our guest for our Accelerate session today is Aaron Seeley, who's the club manager at Virgin Active. Tell us, Aaron, like what's the membership base look like? What's the size of the club that you're managing?
So at the moment, our closing membership position is 4,900 members. So our goal for 2024 is 5,000 members.
Hmm.
So started off a little bit slower in terms of our net gain month on month, but I definitely believe the way that we're going, we'll hit that membership goal by the end of this year.
I know I'm a member at the club. I don't know exactly, but I would guess I'm paying $42 a week or something. Would that sound about
I
right
think
for a gym
40,
access
45,
and
45, I believe, would
45?
be what
Yep.
you're on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that enables me to go in and use like the gym facilities. I can use like a sauna after a session. There's also like 200 classes or something. Is there per week?
Yeah, so we've got 224 classes per week on the timetable.
That's a big engine. Is
It
that does
is.
that fall under your sort of role, or do you have like a group training manager that sort of manages the timetable and the shifts and things for that?
That's a great question. So that used to be part of my remit in my previous job role as product manager. My
Yep.
product manager now, her name is Bianca. So she's had a bit of a fun story in the industry as well. She started off as a member at this club, then had a role in the cafe. Then I kind of poached her from the cafe into my PT team, and now she's doing the role I did before. But the Group X management falls under the product manager's remit, but I'm very
Yep.
much involved because I'm still part of the product. I still teach classes myself. Um, and I think it's good to know what's going in and out of your studios, where the pressure is, where we can make smart additions, what's not working, is the time slot too busy, did these too many classes happen at the same time? Is the impact on the car park too
Yeah.
strenuous? All
Well.
these extra things that we like to sit down with at least once a fortnight and sort of have a bit of a analysis and sense check of what's going on in the timetable, what's working, can we add more, do we need less, and how we're going.
Yeah, that's interesting. As a member of the gym, I actually see you on the gym floor, getting around, chatting to people, and just hands on, cleaning if you need to or chatting to some of the staff. But there's obviously that other side where you're looking at the analytics, which helps you around sort of
Yeah.
decision making. Um, guys, if you have questions while we go along, please just pop them in the chat. I'm definitely going to hog a few of these questions and fire some at Aaron, but jump in the chat if you've got questions as well. Aaron, big job, like 4,900 members, lots of staff, lots of classes. Like it's a big engine. What was the hardest thing about being promoted through the ranks? Like you've come up from a trainer. It's good that you know the brand. You're obviously a great trainer, but it must have been pretty nuts taking on something of that size. Like what did you find hardest at the start?
That's To be honest, Steve, I've thought about this question a bit when you sent it to me before, and there's multiple parts. Like obviously coming from a trainer working alongside peer to peer with people to then be, you know, in charge, leading in charge of decisions. It was having how I viewed myself and how I separated myself from still being able to have those friendly conversations, but to being like, okay, this is work, this is business, this is standards, things that we have to talk about. That
Sure,
was a big learning curve for me, and a big part of that was sort of understanding that not every decision that you make is going to land well with every single team member. You're going to have some disgruntled people, but the thing that's always worked for me is that because I've got strong friendships and strong relationships with them, they know that the decisions that are being made or for the overall like betterment of their jobs, their roles, and first and foremost the member experience as well. Um, Another part to that was learning how to delegate. A big part of when you were a PT, you're a PT. This is your business. These are your clients. You train them how you want to train them. You structure your day how you want to structure your day. If you want to do burpees with them, you do burpees with them. That's how you're going to program. The biggest thing for me was learning how to delegate and sort of let the reins of control go a little bit and have a bit of trust in the management team that they do know what they're doing, that I have given them the tools to do their job well. I've got to let them, if they're going to make a mistake, I've got to let them make the mistake so I can coach them on what next steps or how to do things better. And for them to coach me on as well, I've always learned stuff from my management team, how to be more efficient with my time.
That's so good. I'm scribbling down notes. Matt, welcome to the call. I'm hoping you guys are doing the same. My question was, if you missed it, guys, was what did you find the hardest coming through the ranks and then taking on this extra roles and responsibilities? Because it is such a big, successful club. I imagine most of us would sort of feel a fair bit on our plate. Aaron's, like some of the highlights I've just written down there. One is setting standards and playing a role. It's a little bit different than you did as like a team member. You've obviously got to set and maintain those standards. Number two, you said you can't please everyone, and some people
Yeah,
may. You can't you can't have everyone happy when you announce changes or what's sort of happening from a management point of view. Number three, learn to delegate. I imagine with 4,900 members, if you went in and just tried to do everything by yourself, you would be sort of grey, bald, or unhappy really, really quick. So it's
absolutely.
yeah, so it's actually realizing like a coach or you've got a little team, an executive team that you can sort of delegate things to, and yeah, putting a bit of trust in them. I'm sure they've displayed themselves to be very competent in that sort of first year. I love that.
Absolutely.
So good. How many personal trainers have you got?
We have got 17 active trainers at the moment, and we've
Yep.
just well, we're in the process of onboarding three new trainers.
Oh, well done. Where do you find them? Where do you sort of advertise? Because some managers or owners might sort of log in today and sometimes struggle to find their fourth trainer or their fifth trainer, but you've managed to find some more. Do you have success sort of with certificate for accreditation companies? Are you advertising sort of online? How do you like to do it?
So most of the jobs that we have are marketed from our central team. So they'll post the job ads on Seek, um, leisure jobs, websites such as that. But to be perfectly honest, most of the successful ones that we found is from like going out into the community, because obviously we're quite fortunate in the northern beaches where everybody, it's like 2 degrees of separation. Everybody knows somebody. And for example, our team leader, I presented with at that point. I'm sure you know him, Lucas, one of the trainers
Yes.
here.
Yep.
He was our fitness manager at the time, so we presented at TAFE,
Yeah.
and Oliver was one of the trainers that we took on. And then 5 years later, Oliver's now the team leader and going back to TAFE, and the same teacher that taught him's there, and he's like, "Oh, are you still at Virgin?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm in management now." So having those sort of success stories really helps speak to what we it resonates with candidates that can see there's actually a light at the end of the tunnel when you finish your certs. Um,
Yeah, I actually remember a day going to the Brookvale TAFE, and it was with either Lucas or Oliver at the time. I was representing Gym Hub, so they asked me to come in and give some tips around like video marketing that might be great
yeah,
for the people sort of finishing their course. And the guys were going in talking about, what's it like inside the industry? What can you expect? What should you try and ask while you're in class? I thought that was a great idea. It's um, I think if it was going to be particularly efficient for me in recruitment, I would go over and do it in the city, like really close somewhere or a
yeah.
TAFE closer to where my gym is. But having gone in, I realized that you've got this captive audience. You've got, I think there was 12 or so in the class, and they were there just to find out, and hear from you. I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got a question from Larissa. Managing so many PTs, how do you structure team meetings or one-on-ones with them? Are you seeing them every week? Do you catch them for 15 minutes? How does managing 17 PTs work?
That's a good question. So within the fitness team, there's the fitness leadership team. There's two people. So we've got Bianca's the product leader, product manager, and Oliver's her team leader. And within the trainers, we've got seniority. So we've got level 3, level 2, and level 1 trainers. The level 1 trainers, we don't usually have more than 5 or 6 at one time. They would be our newer trainers that have just joined our team, and they would be looked after by Oliver. So they would get a weekly one-to-one with himself, and they have a separate workshop at the end of each week. For the whole team, we have a weekly team meeting. It's every Tuesday. It's always been every Tuesday, 1:30 to 2:30. And how we try and structure it here is across the 4 weeks, we try and break up the different aspects of the business that we want to get them across. So the first week one, we usually do a month reflection on team performance, such as number of sessions done, talking about statistics, talking about the group X performance. And then we do a couple of little awards. So we'll do like the PT top dog. So whoever's delivered the most amount of PT sessions that month, and they just get it's not a massive prize, but we got like a plaque up in the wall and we engrave their name on the plaque, and
The
then that
recognition.
person.
That's good.
Absolutely, and then they get a free shake and a free coffee every week for the month. And we also do a MVP, so an MVP award, which is voted by their peers. So for the trainer that's been the most valuable person in the team, whether that's with how they've helped other staff members and whatnot. So that's what we usually do in week one. Week two, we will try and do something active. So we might do like a workout together, a class, a bit of product immersion. Week three, we'll try, where possible, to get an external person to come in. So we've got some relationships with some local physios like Teammate Physio, Beach Life Physio. They'll come in and do a bit of a cross referral system. So teach us some skills on how to deal with tennis elbow or frozen shoulder or ACLs, just to build a better relationship with the physios in the area. And then the fourth one, we'll try and do something culture. So we might go out for a team lunch, we might go out for a team dinner. Um, I might all shout them a meal, something like that. And in terms
Yeah.
of the meetings, we have a lots of the senior trainers act as mentors for some of the newer trainers as well, which really helps in terms of managing such a large team.
Um, I don't have one of these kind of level one, level two, level three sort of systems, but I imagine it's a little bit like MMA or karate or something where you aspire to move up the levels. You aspire to be
Correct.
sort of acknowledged. I imagine it comes with like a higher pay rate or some type of
Yeah.
seniority. But for me, that once you put them into those levels, it definitely makes it easier to work out, well, who are our mentors, who are our newbies,
Correct.
like where are they actually up to in their journey. I love that sort of system there. The recognition and awards and things, obviously, I think highlights the types of behaviors that you want to see in other trainers. So that's it. Rather
Mhm.
than sort of kicking and screaming in the team meeting, instead you go in and acknowledge the PT dog, and you give them something, and everyone sort of looks to do that type of behavior and maybe work themselves into that award. It's good.
Yeah.
Have you found like since you've been doing PT and I've been on the gym floor doing PT, have you found that what the trainers are looking for post COVID or the like getting them started, have you found it sort of changed at all? Have you found it to be largely the same in sort of just building rapport with them? How do you feel personal trainer or group trainer sort of development is it the same or different?
I feel like it is slightly different coming back from COVID. I feel this is my own personal experience, but coming back from COVID, I feel like a lot of trainers were very protective of their time and then became very select on the hours that they wanted to work or the blocks of hours that they wanted to work or the type of clientele that they wanted to work in.
Yeah.
There's also been a lot of industry shifting in terms of um, what's hot and what's not in terms of the training types at the moment, um, which is always a challenge for people that have been doing a certain thing a certain way for X amount of years to sort of keep up with the trend and attract a new clientele. But obviously, as you know, new clientele isn't how your business is built. It's built on retention. It's built on service. But yeah, I definitely say the biggest things I've noticed is people very protective of their time and very selective of the type of clientele they want to sort of bring onto their business.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It's interesting. It was almost like a little false economy. We had perceptions about online training, and we were almost led to believe that you could just, set up in the park permanently, and you could charge $150 an hour, and that'd last. But ultimately, everyone went back to the gym. Ultimately, everyone does enjoy
Correct.
having some cable machines and different facilities and stuff to use. So, um, it feels like there's more people applying for jobs and things like that. What were some of the best courses you feel like you've done that maybe Virgin Active has put you through? Do you remember doing like kettlebell training? Do you remember something you've sort of learnt as part of your, last 13 years that is a good reason to stay involved?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, ones that Virgin Active have put me through personally. I've done a rehab trainer course, which I won as a prize. Um, so I won that as a prize for doing most amount of PT sessions. So I won a free spot on this course, which was
Great.
fantastic. I've done two different types of pre and postnatal course through Virgin Active. I've done boxing through them. Um, Back in the UK, I did my diploma in sports nutrition through Virgin as well. Um,
Okay.
yeah, it's been, and then there's just on the job, ongoing workshops and training, like kettlebell workshops, TRX when we used to have lots of TRX in the gym, power plates when we used to have lots of power plates, those types of courses as well.
It's definitely something my staff crave, is to be learning something new, and I think they get a little bit stale or bored if they continue to program with the same type of
Yeah,
exercises. So um, they're really good examples, and I don't think outside of the reach. Obviously, Virgin Active's a larger brand, and they can sort of outsource some of those things. But I think these are some, like particularly kettlebells, TRX. A lot of those things, boxing, we could do internally, and even in like
absolutely.
a smaller brand. These are
Hmm.
good. Guys, if you have any questions for Aaron as we go along, type it into the chat. I've got a couple more that I want to sort of throw at you. What is one of the biggest mistakes you've made when first taking on such a big role?
um,
Because I imagine there's people
oh,
that are maybe at the start of owning their own business, or maybe they're a manager like you, and they're just like, oh fuck, that that didn't go so well. Like, but
that's
that's
a good
part of the
question.
learning process. Do you remember any examples of things you tried or it just didn't go over well?
I, Honestly, it was trying to do everything myself,
Yeah.
and then losing focus on everything. Um, One of our national managers, he gave me two sort of statements. He's like, when you try and spin too many plates, you end up dropping them all. But the one that stuck with me, he's like, I could give you a tin of paint and you could paint this whole room, but would it be a good job? I was like, probably not. He's like, you need to use multiple tins of paint, multiple coats. It takes time, it takes patience. Don't try and do everything at the same time. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Um, I think that's a pride thing. Like you've finally climbed to the top of, in terms of in club, the highest position that you can get to. And sometimes you don't want to feel like you don't have all the answers for when your management team or your frontline staff are coming to you. And sometimes you just, fake it till you make it, which is definitely not the right course of event. If I don't know, I've definitely learned in this last year. If I don't know something, put my hand up, ask the question, find the answer, learn about it, implement, and then just take it from there.
Yeah, there's some really good analogies your mentors kind of passed on. Um, I think when you apply for a management job, there's obviously other people in a business that might be, going for a promotion when you were doing it. But you obviously want to be confident. You obviously want to demonstrate work ethic and remind them of your
Yeah,
experience. I could see how it'd be really easy just to, no, I understand, and you really don't. You're driving home going, shit, how do I do that?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you sound like you found a good mix. After a couple of years in that role where you sort of it is okay to sort of ask questions as you go along. I imagine that must sort of work as well with your team when you're managing 17 personal trainers and a whole bunch of other sort of staff. I imagine they must be a little bit vulnerable at times. They must be open to feedback. If you're doing that and you're demonstrating that as a role model, I imagine they sort of open up a little bit as well.
It definitely helps keep that human touch and human connection. It's like, okay, Aaron might be the club manager now, but he's still a human. He doesn't know everything. He doesn't have the answers for everything, and that's absolutely okay. But when he comes back to me and he sits down and talks to me, he's actually taken his time out of his day to research what I needed help with, and now we're going to have a much better, healthier conversation off the back of that.
Yeah, I've observed your manner is quite measured. You're not someone that raises your voice a lot. You're not someone that speaks really fast. And because of that, it feels like you're listening to the question. It feels like you're listening to, when I observe you on the gym floor, that's definitely a strong trait of yours I admire.
I've had to learn that, if I'm being honest with you, Steve. I've had to work on that since I've been in leadership over the last 4 or 5 years. My personality type is typically quite red. So sometimes, like if something is confronts me, my initial reaction might be to just snap and be fiery. So I've really learned to just, breathe and absorb the information. A big thing I remember, it's actually my grandfather who passed away last year. He taught me was he's like, there's personal feedback and there's professional feedback. If someone's attacking your character, it's personal. You're allowed to react in a personal way. If we're talking professional and we're talking about work, you need to put the emotion to the side and you need to think of it as a professional manner and how to address it in a professional manner. And that's something that's sat with me. And it's like someone says, "Oh, you've got a dodgy haircut." Okay, that's a personal thing. But if
I get that one.
I've got that one too. But if someone's giving like professional feedback, it's to understand that the feedback's been given. It's not negative. It's always should be taken in a positive light because we're providing that feedback or the feedback's being received to try and make the situation better or the experience better.
Yeah, that's really good. A little legacy from your grandfather. I really like that. Learn to breathe and separate the difference. I'm scribbling down notes for everyone. Difference between personal and professional feedback in the way that you sort of respond. That's really good. There's a second question from Larissa saying, what's been one of the hardest emotional decisions you've had to make to move the business forward? So there's obviously the hand holding and the supportive role that you play with staff and making sure they feel cared for and that they can make an error and not sort of get hit on the hands. But I imagine you've got a board or someone you have to respond to as well that want to see that it's growing beyond 4,900 members. Is there any sort of
Absolutely.
tough things you've had to sort of do or you think is important to, for the rest of us in a leadership role?
Yeah, there's obviously, as you said, Steve, I report into our head office and we have got financial targets and KPIs that we need to achieve. We've got health and safety audits and standards that we need to uphold. We've got brand standards and cleanliness targets that we need to uphold. And some of the tougher decisions that I've had to make is around the brand standards and the health and safety. And it has been around sort of tackling issues that have been raised, not by all staff, but by certain staff, people that would have, worked along side by side on the gym floor with in addressing behaviors that they need to change. And if they can't, is having to, start that performance sort of improvement plan with them, whether they're going to stay with the business or move them on. Um, and another challenging one that we face is when we have price increases. Um, as we know, the prices increase on all goods and services as we go. And sometimes members that have been with us for a long, long time and are on a sort of an older legacy rate may get a higher increase than someone else. So all of it sometimes it is involves you do lose a few members along the way in order to grow the business and take the business in the direction that you want it to be in.
Yeah. Um, it's interesting, isn't it? You can have rapport with someone for 5 years. They like your service and you're good friends, but as soon as you stuff up their billing or potentially, you know, mention that there's a price rise, sometimes that can be unpeeled pretty quickly. Um,
Definitely.
do you know, like the Virgin process? Do they sort of move everyone up the same amount? You said like legacy ones. Like I imagine there must have been someone that
No,
signed up
so
15 years ago.
oh, absolutely. So the sort of the strategy is H1, H2. So half the year, the people that signed up a year ago or more would then align with the new pricing point. People
Yep.
that signed up at the back end of the second year would then align with the second rate. And it would never
Ah,
be like, for example, if someone was on an old rate where they were paying, I don't know, 38 bucks a week, it's never just going to jump all the way up to the current rate. But
yep.
we're trying to the grand scheme of things is to try and align everybody's price point as close to what the current price point is so that it's
Yes.
actually fair and transparent for someone that's signing up today versus someone that signed up last year. They're receiving the same service, receiving the same goods, they should be paying the same amount, which is, I think, a difficult decision, but it's obviously a fairer decision to make.
Yeah, I think explaining it to the members, like why, like you articulated that all goods and services go up in price. I think my first fitness job, I was earning $17 an hour, and that was kind of the award. The same role
Yeah,
is probably $35 or something at the moment.
yeah.
Um, Rent's gone up. Electricity, I think my quarterly bill went from 2,900 to 4,300 or something, which definitely isn't a huge electricity bill compared to you guys and Golds and those sort of bigger facilities. But um, it is a very real situation and a great question, Larissa, that there are some tough calls you've got to make in sort of leadership. You've got to understand that some decisions have to be made for the greater good, and like like Aaron said it at the very start, sometimes when you're making those decisions, not everyone is 100% satisfied, so you might lose a couple along the way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Um,
sometimes when those utility bills come in, I'm looking at them and I'm like, "Good God! Like this is crazy. How much it costs to run the facilities." I remember when I first became club manager and I started getting all these invoices sent to me. I remember going back to the finance team and I'm like, is this what we pay for electricity?" I'm like, "Can we not just turn the lights off in the middle of the day?"
well, and staff are like that a bit sometimes as well. They're like, okay, I know the average member pays $45. Now, how come I only get paid X per hour? And they don't always factor in that, they're not paying for the electricity or the insurance and all those other things that you guys are. So I think sometimes communicating some of those other expenses is important, but you guys do a tremendous job in just having that sort of laddered career pathway. It's such a successful one that's you're um, a wonderful testament or case study for just keeping talent involved in a business. I would love to have a trainer, hardworking like you, that comes through as a role model, takes on a senior role, and is involved in my business for 13 years. What else have they done well as a brand to keep you involved? You spoke about there's been some good courses like TRX and kettlebells and stuff like that. You've spoken about level one, level two, level three. Is there anything else that's kind of kept you loyal or just kept you interested, like to be still in this role?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love the culture that Virgin Active has always had. I mean, we've changed over the years, but I feel like the core culture of having fun, putting the staff first, looking at growth, looking at development and a career. And I remember reading the stats when I first did my certs of sort of the length of time that PTs stay within the industry um, can be quite short. So I was
Mm,
quite nervous because this is not what I studied at uni at all. So I was quite nervous coming into the industry, but you know, having those opportunities to learn, like I've done various different job roles with Virgin Active over the years. Um, their their belief is if you've got good talent, keep good talent and support them in where they want to go.
So that sort of job variety is probably part of it. Like you've taken on
Absolutely.
different roles at different times in your career, because not everyone can be the club manager. But there's obviously been other sort of leadership opportunities or opportunities for growth before you got to this role.
Yeah, because if I'm being perfectly honest, you know, I've sort of gravitated toward leadership since I've come out of uni, like, you know, team captain when I was playing soccer and stuff like that. So when I started working for Virgin in Australia, the last role I had for Virgin in the UK, I was a duty manager. And I remember leaving the UK saying, I'm going to move to Australia. I want to live by the beach and I want to be a PT. I want to do my sessions. I want to go home. I want to chill by the beach. And then quickly I started, you know, talking to some of the younger trainers and I'm like, hey, bro, why don't you try doing it this way? Or why don't you try structuring your day this way? Or instead of doing a split shift, why don't you just move all your Tuesday evening to Wednesday evening? So then you've got the whole of Tuesday off. And they're like,
Mm.
oh, so then I quickly thought, okay, I could be a mentor. And after doing that for a while and being promoted from level one to level two trainer, um, I quickly then thought to myself, I'd love to lead this team as the fitness manager. So when I got that role, that was sort of the be all and end all. I didn't really want anything more than that. And then when Josh left, the reason I didn't apply for the club manager role at the time is because I had this romanticized view of the fitness role. I loved being in fitness and I didn't want to move away or lose my connection with fitness. But it was
Yep.
also a fear. And it was a fear of I don't think I had the skill set or I was not equipped to do the club manager role.
Mm.
And when I started doing the interim acting role, I was like, I think I can do this. And
That's interesting because like no one's applying for a job or lining up for a job that they don't know what it is. Like if
mm,
it's so scary, the unknown. To leave a bunch of great clients and a role that you really really enjoy to take on something that's really unknown, it just doesn't make any sense. So it was a really smart move then putting you into an interim sort of management role because they could see what you were like in sort of leadership, but you could also see what the day to day looked like.
yeah, absolutely.
Hey, marketing wise, there must be some good campaigns that you guys have run in order to have close to 5,000 sort of members, but not just sort of 5,000 members, but they're at that sort of premium price point. Can you think of like a campaign that's maybe outperformed some of your other ones?
We often do like a discount on the membership rate. So we'll do like a 12-week half price offer or an 8-week half price offer, um, which usually gets injected into the middle of the month to try and stimulate sales.
Uh-huh.
I think the strongest ones is when they've been really tactful around the timing of the year. So, for example, at the back end of the year, saying if it's November, rest of the year half price, or rest of the year free if you sign up before this type of time. But the staple one that's always worked well is a 12-week half price
Great.
membership.
Yeah, I think I actually re-signed at Virgin Active in the last 6 months or something with that. Um, I was a little bit complacent, I guess, in the process because I'd been a member before, so I was just like, all right, just yeah, get it organized for me. So I didn't even know what rate I was going to after the 12 weeks. I just knew that half price
Mm,
for 12 weeks was a really good deal.
yeah.
So that's a good campaign. Do you find some ways of advertising more effective than others? Like how are you getting that offer out into the marketplace?
So a lot of the marketing is developed and made from our central team, and then
Yep,
will be distributed to the clubs for us to do letterbox drops and stuff like that. We market on social media, so Instagram, TikTok, stuff like that. I
yep,
think something that works really well for Virgin is that everybody in the marketing videos are actual people, like actual staff that people that actually work for the business. Uh, do the marketing videos, marketing shoots. Like if you've been on the gym floor, you've probably seen on the screen upstairs a
Yeah.
few of the trainers on. So I think that helps for people, especially rejoiners that see it's like, oh, that's Tim. Tim's on the cycle screen. Like he still works for the company. So it leads power to the brand, I feel.
I think that's ingenious. It's sometimes hard to visualize what the photo shoot might need to look like. And I guess there's probably photographers or whatever that could offer some suggestions there. But um, using local faces to promote a local facility, and using those same bits of artwork internally definitely helps kind of edify the trainers. They do look like sort of mini celebrities because you see their faces on posters or on the
Mm.
digital screens and that around the facility. Um, is it like a bulk thing? Like, is it once a year you just do a bit of a photo shoot and that creates the artwork for you, or do you know how they sort of
So
roll out that type of
yeah,
marketing?
so they've changed it over the last couple of years. So in 2022, we did two campaigns in the year. In 2023, we did four. So we did one each quarter. Um, and each quarter had a slightly different focus. So one was marketing around the high impact, high energy sort of training around the cycle, around the boxing. Then there
Yep,
was one that was around recovery, and we introduced like sound healing classes. So they
yep,
used marketing around that. So they used different parts of the facility to integrate with the different type of marketing message that they're trying to put out there to really identify the different elements of the gym that we've got. So we don't just have a gym floor. We've got wet facilities. We've got yoga classes. We have reformer. We have creche. We have all those types of things.
yeah.
And then the marketing team has created like fly through videos of every single one of the clubs. So if you went onto the website and you clicked on Virgin Active Northern Beaches, the video would have Virgin Active Northern Beaches staff um, training and demoing the facilities within the Northern Beaches. And sorry, just a couple of staff came in, so I just giving them a
You're
wave. And for example, if they went to Pitch Street, it would be the same thing. You would see Pitch Street faces as they fly through the club, giving a demo of the club and the facilities.
That's so good. I'm going to jump on the website and have a look for some inspiration. I'm going to try and get my staff involved in a photo shoot. There's a guy we've used in the past that comes in and takes some great photos for us. I've also found even phones take a pretty high res kind of image that's
Absolutely.
usable. Maybe not on the website, but it's quite usable for social media, quality. Um, Yeah, that's really good. I think there's a trap when you are a multi-service facility like Nathan's from Golds and Larissa's from Anytime, and you've got gym access and you've got personal training. You've maybe got group training or something on top of it, or a cafe or something. I think it's really easy to advertise absolutely everything, and it doesn't really align with anyone. I love the way that those new bits of advertising have chosen one element. So, like you were saying before, they'll sort of focus on a particular theme, like recovery, or a particular theme, like the fun involved in the group classes. And there's other stuff available, but it sort of highlights one thing, and it does a
Yeah,
really good job of it because they're not trying to highlight five things.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
that's really good. What about sales? Do you have to oversee any of the sales? Do they just have their own sort of arm? I'm curious to understand how if there's any particular things you find they're doing well to be signing up so many members. Um,
Mhm.
what do the Virgin sales team do on a day-to-day basis? Do you think that works?
So for us, us, we have a sales manager and three sales consultants.
Hmm.
The biggest thing for them is, call drives and membership calls. For us, a lot of our calls are based on ex-members, rejoiners, and reaching out to areas of the community. As you know, Steve, like we're not in a big sort of corporate area. Like we're not like directly next to Warringah Mall or anything like that, where we can go and do sort of outreach and leaflet drops in a shopping facility. So it is really looking at residential community, ex members, and invite a friend passes. is like our lifeblood. Um, because every member that signs up is gets guest passes, invite friend passes, what they can send to a friend, a loved one, a next door neighbor, um, and having sounds silly to say it, but having an active member do your marketing and prospecting for you is so much more powerful than me trying to sell the product to someone I've never met before. When if I've
Mm,
just met you for the first time and you've been brought in by your wife and she loves the facility and she does PT with one of our trainers and goes to the classes, she's already told you how much she loves it. I've just got to walk you around, show you and speak to you about the things that you're looking for. If you're looking for weights, I'm going to take you to the weights area, show you the range of equipment that we've got there. If you tell me that you're interested into the sauna, I'll take you to the sauna, show you the facilities, and really gear that tour towards what you want, what you're going to use that membership for.
mm.
If you don't know how to swim, there's no point in me telling you that we've got a 25-meter pool, unless you want to do swim lessons, which we do. We can help you with that too. But
But it's
yeah,
actually counterproductive, isn't it? Like if I've gone in there just to
exactly,
lift weights and you highlight the pool, I feel like I'm paying for something that I'm not going to use, and then I go and
exactly.
sign up sort of somewhere else. So I think that's an important skill is tailoring the tour to the person, particularly when you've got so many different products under the one roof.
Hmm.
I imagine like new brands, like Cody and a couple of guys on the call might be earlier in their sort of brand development. You like no one really knows you, so the number of referrals you get is quite small. Whereas there's kind of seasons for it. Once your business is more established and you have hundreds or even thousands of members, the number of weekly referrals you get must be a lot higher. There must be
Yeah.
a slight shift away from like brand awareness where you can actually focus more around, just doing more with the existing members that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Something I would love for us to do more is um, sort of a rewarding tenure and rewarding more stuff for members that have been active for X amount of years. It's definitely something I put in a proposal to head office to look at in terms of marketing, because I
Yep,
think in business we always look for the new clients, and we always look for new members, new clients. How can we keep getting in new business? But
yep,
if that bucket's full of holes and we're leaking at the bottom, there's no point putting in more at the top until we can, really satisfy and look after the people that we've currently got. Something
mm,
that's worked for us well is that out of all the Virgin Actives, we've got the lowest attrition rate. So our members stay here for longer, and their membership is longer with us than some of the other Virgin Active clubs. I think that does lead to the area. Um, and people in the northern beaches, myself included, rarely ever cross any of the bridges to go out. But I think looking at what you can do for your current membership base, how you can best service them and look after them, is going to directly influence how many new people are going to come in. Because
mm,
if your terminations are higher than your sales, obviously one, your membership position is moving backwards. But
yep.
if your terminations, if members are flocking out and they're leaving Google reviews and all sorts of stuff saying I wouldn't recommend Virgin Active, it then makes the sales even harder to make.
Yeah, I think that's so good. I have like a traffic light system I use in our gym where we like green is a happy client that's enjoying their training and they sort of tell you about it. Yellow, not their attendances maybe come back down or it's sort of mixed reviews, and then red is the ones that are unhappy. I've actually spent more of our time on retention trying to move people from yellow to green than I have from red
Mhm.
to yellow. I actually feel like there's a bunch of people that sometimes find their way into your gym that aren't the right fit. Like they wanted CrossFit, and we don't really do CrossFit, and then they
Yeah,
complain that we're not great at CrossFit. But to your point, I think it's really easy to actually get that existing audience and just move them up. The other one is sort of green to purple. Purple is someone that sort of refers other people.
yeah,
So yeah, that's kind of a big focus in our sort of retention one is oddly enough, not putting all your time and effort into trying to save or move the worst, like the people that give you a 2 out of 10 aren't always savable. They can't always be convinced that you're the right
no,
brand.
no. And sometimes it's absolutely right for you guys to part ways.
Yeah,
Um, it's something that we've used with the performance management with the PT team. And, quite often you spend about 90% of your time performance managing the people that give you 10% of the results. And then the
Yep.
people that give you 90% of the results get zero of your time and attention, which
Yeah.
then leads to them being detractors as well. So, you know, a big learn for me is to, if someone is a detractor and they want to leave your business, whether it's a member or a staff member, it's having the right sort of exit strategy for them that's going to be fair and
Yep.
amicable and clean. And the people that are performing, make sure you reward and you recognize them, even if it's a thanks for the good job or here's a free coffee, whatever, small, could be big. It's just
Mm.
making sure that they know that their hard work is appreciated and there's return on that.
Yeah. Mate, this is so good. I'm really conscious of your time. I'm so grateful for how transparent you've been. Pretty raw, sharing things that sometimes don't work or stuff that sort of happens behind the scenes. But your journey through the ranks of Virgin Actives is been amazing. I'm so proud of how much you've sort of developed in terms of your sort of skill set. Um, Apologies for my dog barking in the background, but mate, congratulations. The club's going so well. I love seeing you're doing really well in there, and I'm yeah, so grateful for how much you've been able to share with us today about what's working and great inspiration for the rest of us.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you so much.